are these people?
All right, you ready for our next one? No.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, I didn't want to report on this story, but actually reading it is, well, I don't want to say it's not as bad. It is.
Yeah.
But relatively speaking, what was probably reported and the conclusion that people would come to naturally is not what it is. Even for I having to go through it was like, oh,
Yeah.
it's a lot different from what was presented, at least on social media. So, so you brought this guy, new
Arturo Dominguez.
So Arturo Dominguez. So he wrote this. So he has a Substack called Decolonized Journalism. I'm not going to read all of it, but I'm going to read the parts that kind of relate or connect to this upcoming story in Gaza. But he titles his article, "The Media is Showing Its Bias Again. While children are being burned alive in Palestine, all legacy media will talk about is 2 Israeli embassy workers who were killed and a U.S. citizen who tried to firebomb a U.S. embassy in Israel." So let's get into it. So,
there you go.
There is no question Western news media harbors biases, whether it's villainizing Black people and Latinos in news stories as they echo what police say without scrutiny, or killing civilians in wars all over the world, or overthrowing governments in Latin America to install US-friendly far-right Christian nationalist dictators. The bias in our news ecosystem is visible. There are countless examples from the start of the war in Ukraine, and while someone explains what is happening today in our news media, we cannot forget Western media's ugly history in this arena. From referring to indigenous people defending themselves in the West as savages, to slaughtering millions in the Middle East in our so-called war on terror, the same bias is being applied in legacy news reporting on Israel's relentless slaughter of Palestinians. The murder of 2 embassy workers is tragic and should be reported on, but it should be accurate. The perpetrator who allegedly committed the murders did so not because of a hatred for Jewish people, but of a loathing of what the Israeli government is doing in Palestine with Western support, primarily weapons provided U.S. taxpayer dollars, an unpopular move. According to his alleged manifesto, which the FBI validated as the shooters after they visited Glenn Klippenstein in an attempt to intimidate him for publishing it, he was motivated not by anti-Semitism, but by the genocide of Palestinians. That much is abundantly clear, yet the media is echoing what police say in calling it an anti-Semitic attack. To declare the horrible shooting anti-Semitic would require defining the meaning, which highlights why it is so dangerous. While all of this was happening, Nazis were again roaming the streets in our neighborhoods across the country, and the administration, along with the pro-genocide crowd, remained silent in comparison to speaking out against those who want the slaughter to stop. This creates a more dangerous environment for Jewish people. If the focus is on redefining anti-Semitism to target anti-war students, then they are ignoring those who really wish to do Jewish people harm. The problem is with the far-right pro-genocide lobby is the unpopularity of Israel's actions by nearly every non-Western nation on Earth. In other words, wars are lost not by casualty counts, but by losing global support. In that sense, Israel lost a long time ago. Because of that, the attacks against people who speak up are motivated by silencing dissent and attacking free speech, and if they had their way, sending U.S. citizens to gulags in foreign countries. According to the DOJ, Neumer arrived outside the U.S. Embassy in Tel Aviv on May 19th, carrying a dark-colored backpack. The report alleges that, without provocation, Neumeyer spat on an embassy guard as he walked by. As a guard attempted to detain him, Neumeyer broke free, leaving behind his backpack, which allegedly contained 3 rudimentary improvised incendiary devices, otherwise known as Molotov cocktails.
Yep.
This defendant is charged with planning a devastating attack targeting our embassy in Israel, threatening death to Americans and President Trump's life, said Attorney General Pamela Bondi. The department will not tolerate such violence and will prosecute this defendant to the fullest extent of the law. While the news focuses on these two events, Israel bombed a school, killing dozens of people, including children. A video that went viral on social media shows what appears to be a little girl in a building engulfed in flames trying to find her way out. Hospitals, schools, houses of worship, private homes, nothing is off limits for the Israeli government. None of these has previously moved the US Congress to condemn Israel's actions, and we shouldn't expect them to. Their callous inaction to stop the killings, alongside continuing to ship weapons and fund the ethnic cleansing of Palestinians who are indigenous to the land alongside Arab Jews and Christians, speaks volumes about the motivations of the US government behind the scenes with the help of lobbies like AIPAC and organizations like the ADL. These two organizations alone pressure lawmakers with false claims of anti-Semitism to continue the slaughter. While many lawmakers today more focused on being reelected than they are on serving the people, when these pro-Israel groups brag about funding and swinging elections, it's easy for them to point to that and warn elected officials, essentially threatening their jobs. While studies showed that weaponizing cynical claims of anti-Semitism is largely driven by Islamophobia and anti-Arab animus, many argued that this is the single motivating factor for these groups, Israel, and the US to continue killing Arabs after 20 years of killing millions in Afghanistan and Iraq. The insanity has to stop. So, great article. I didn't read all of it. But we are going to get into more of the details of the viral video that Arturo talked about. So this is an article from a friend of the show, Brett Wilkins from Common Dreams, who reported videos shows girl trying to escape Inferno as Gaza family burned alive in Israeli massacre. What we are doing in Gaza is a war of extermination, indiscriminate, unrestrained, brutal, and criminal killing of civilians, said former Israeli Prime Minister Ehud Olmert.
Which I don't fucking buy, by the way. That motherfucker did plenty of terrible shit in Lebanon himself. Like, you know, he's trying to save face now, but don't fucking buy that shit.
Right.
Anyway, continue. Right.
Video footage of a young girl trying to flee an inferno caused by a Monday Israeli airstrike that killed dozens of Palestinians, including her mother and siblings, sparked global outrage and calls for an immediate ceasefire in what former Prime Minister called a war of extermination. Medical officials in Gaza said that at least 36 people were killed by an Israel Defense Forces bombing at the Fahmy al-Jawawi school in the Al-Daraj neighborhood of Gaza City.
Yeah.
The Gaza government media office said that 18 children were killed in a brutal massacre.
Of a school.
The school was supposed to be...
Which is a fucking war crime. Like, what?
Right.
What are we doing?
The school was supposed to be a place of safety. Instead, it was turned into an inferno. Gaza Civil Defense spokesperson Mahmoud Basil told reporters, "We heard desperate cries for help from people trapped alive inside the blaze, but the fire was too intense. We couldn't get to them."
I did want to point out, and maybe someone will know this, like, normally explosions don't cause fires quite like that. You know? I don't know if it's partially because they're having to keep like flammables on hand to power things. You know, that might be one. Like, what is causing those fires every time they bomb somewhere? You know, like, yeah, it happens. They're residential buildings, but it just seems kind of crazy. Like, I'm wondering if Israel's throwing some incendiaries into stuff. You know, but anyway, continue.
Video recorded at the scene, and we're not going to we'll show pictures, but we're not going to show the actual video. You can find that online.
Yeah.
Video recorded at the scene of the strike showing the silhouette of a young girl, identified as 7-year-old Ward al-Sheikh Khalil, moving against the Inferno backdrop as she tried to escape the blaze. According to the National, paramedic Hussein Musayin, Mushaysin, I guess, rushed in to rescue the child, whom he said was moments away from death. When we pulled her out, she was in shock, silent, trembling, unable to comprehend what had just happened, Mushaysin said. We couldn't bring ourselves to tell her that her entire family was killed in the bombing. So, just for context, because even online it gave the impression that she was being burned, she's fine.
Yeah, she made it out.
Her family isn't. She made it out. Her family didn't. So just to give that clarification there. The child's mother and at least 5 siblings were reportedly killed in the bombing. Only her father survived, and he's now in critical condition, said Musasi. We see tragedy every day, but holding a child who has lost everything, who doesn't even know yet, that's a kind of pain no one can explain, he's added. So right now, at least at the time of this reporting, Ward doesn't know about her family being killed. So
wounded child, no surviving family,
Right. So so this is from Nabah. 7-year-old Ward al-Sheikh Khalil survived the Israeli army attack on the Fahmi al-Jawari school in Gaza City. Her mother and 5 siblings were killed. So this is her. And there's more. So this from Loki, who is a contributor to Mid Press. She is 7 years old. Her name is Ward, which means flowers. So this is the video that went viral of her walking in the midst of that.
Which we probably can't play just because of screams. Like there was like 3 or 4 videos of this event that you can find online of just people literally burning alive, so.
Right.
But Last American Vagabond, while the partisan media focuses on Macron being slapped, the real important stuff, it is actual news like this that falls by the wayside. Fucking agreed, bro. Like, people being distracted way too much.
No offense to people, to even our colleagues who reported on the slap, but
all offense though.
I saw no one, as far as I know, no one has reported on that.
Yeah.
And again, I think we're all getting Israel fatigue at this point,
which I think they're hoping on.
Right. But this is more of a reason why we have to continue doing this, to let you know that this is not over and it's far from over.
Yeah.
So, especially when it deals with children.
Just to, I feel like art speaks more somehow, So appreciate these people. Haima, we will not forgive. We will not forget. But I said it wrong. And Najat Ward, but Gaza is still burning. So, yep. I mean, incredible work. So, but you have a little bit more, right?
Yeah. The IDF admitted to the bombing, one of 200 it said it carried out Monday, and claimed it targeted, quote, a Hamas and Islamic Jihad command and control center. Okay. Didn't know that was code for school, but okay. As usual, no evidence was provided to support the claim. Meanwhile, in the northern Gaza city of Jabalia, another pre-dawn IDF strike reportedly killed 19 people, mostly women and children, sheltered in the Adel Rabu family home. Medical officials told reporters that recovery operations were still underway on Monday afternoon, with charred and mangled bodies being pulled from the rubble. Momen Adel Rabu, who rushed to the scene following the attack, told the National it was sudden, The house was completely flattened. Ambulances barely made it through to recover the wounded and the dead. Some bodies are still trapped under the rubble. Adel Rabu said that Israeli bombing continued nearby and drones buzzed overhead as first responders, who are often attacked and killed by Israelis' double tap strikes, dug through the ruins in search of survivors and victims. How can we search for survivors under fire? He asked. These were civilians, mothers, toddlers, elderly people. This wasn't a military target. It was our home. So this was a tweet that I have in the poll. So these were the 19 that were killed in that bombing.
Right.
No names, but we do have their faces. So yeah.
Yeah.
I believe you bought this as well. This is from Palestinian Telegraph. There's no moral difference between putting people in gas chambers and burning people in school in Gaza. A Holocaust is happening right before our eyes, and the world is silent.
Yep.
The GMO said Monday that more than 2,200 Palestinian families have been entirely wiped out since October 2023. The U.S.-based Council on American Islamic Relations issued a statement Monday condemning the school shelter bombing and Sunday's barbaric killing of 2 Red Cross workers, weapon contamination officer Ibrahim Eid, and hospital security guard Ahmad Abdul Hilal in an IDF airstrike on their home in Khan Yunis. The weekend bombing following the March 23rd massacre of 15 Palestinian first responders, including Red Crescent paramedics, by Israeli ground troops in Rafah. How many more children, women, the elderly, journalists, healthcare workers, and first responders must Benjamin Netanyahu slaughter with American weapons before Donald Trump forces him to accept a permanent ceasefire deal that ends the genocide for good and frees all captives? As CAR National Executive Director Nihad Awal. Every hour that Israel's genocidal crimes continue with impunity and with our government's complicity adds more dishonor to a shameful period in the history of our nation and our world. Well, I mean, that's just this country being itself. That's not a new thing. That would be the only thing I would say there. Hamas, which led the October 7th, 20. I'm not even going to read that. Oh, wait. So I don't want to get to this yet. Actually, you know what? Because I know you added some.
I think only a little bit. So
you did?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. So we haven't done Caitlin in a while. So well, it's time to listen to her. Well, to Tim Foley, her husband.
Yeah.
In terms of this story, oftentimes she says she reports on stuff in a way that I think is very succinct and kind of tugs at your heartstrings a bit, but also kind of brings a little sobering truth to the fuck shit that is our country and our world right now. So she titled this, and all of her videos and her articles are on her website. But she called this I wouldn't call it a segment, but article, and her husband's reading it. If you don't oppose the Gaza Holocaust, you've been wasting your life on this planet. So let's see what.
If you don't oppose the Gaza Holocaust, you've been wasting your life on this planet. They're burning kids alive in Gaza. They're burning them alive. And still people are silent, or are actively supporting Israel, or are spouting mealy-mouthed both sides gibberish while shrugging their shoulders. A spiritual teacher who I used to like posted the most obnoxious screed today, babbling about how both Israelis and Palestinians are suffering in this, quote, war, and that, while Israel does have a, quote, right to defend itself, it's time for a ceasefire to be reached. This is a guy who's made a career out of presenting himself as so wise, insightful, and enlightened that people should pay him money to hear what he has to say about life and spiritual attainment, finally deciding to speak out about a genocide that's been going on for nearly 20 months now, and saying the most vapid, infantile nonsense imaginable. I know teenagers who could have done a better job. And from where I'm sitting, if this is the best you can do after a lifetime dedicated to spiritual insight and awakening, then what good was any of it? If you can't even take a solid stance against history's first live-streamed genocide after decades of spiritual seeking and spiritual finding, then it kinda seems like you've been wasting your life this whole time. And I guess I feel pretty much the same way about everyone who still isn't taking a stand on this thing. This is not a complicated issue. It doesn't take a tremendous amount of learning, wisdom, or morality to wind up on the correct side of this thing. You don't have to be a Buddha, a scholar, or a saint to oppose an active genocide. You just have to not be all fucked up inside. There is only one correct position to have on the Gaza Holocaust, and if you still haven't managed to find your way into that position, then I think it's fair to say you have been wasting your life on this planet up until this point. I mean, what have you even been doing here exactly? You clearly haven't been working on becoming a decent person. You haven't been learning about the world. You haven't been expanding your awareness of justice and inequality. You haven't been working on developing a truth-based relationship with reality. You haven't been developing empathy for your fellow human beings. You haven't been growing or maturing. What exactly have you been doing? How have you managed to spend your entire life avoiding all the most important things about living as a human organism on this planet? It's not too late to change this, of course. It's never too late to change. If you still haven't taken your stand against the genocide in Gaza, you can change this right away. If you don't know enough about what's happening, get curious and start learning. If you're having trouble discerning fact from fiction, get humble and ask questions. If you're having trouble sorting out right from wrong, get quiet inside and look in your heart. You've got this. You don't need any special qualifications to speak out against the Gaza Holocaust. You are already fully qualified to do so. Many people far more ignorant and far less ethical than yourself are already speaking out in support of Israel's actions, so you should feel free to use your own voice just as loudly. Learn as much as you can, but don't feel like you have to be some kind of expert to speak out against a genocide that's being facilitated by your own government. Get moving on this. There's no time to lose. Children are burning, and the clock is running out. Take a firm position on the great moral issue of our time, or be prepared to spend the rest of your life explaining why you didn't.
Yep.
So, just another example of speaking truth to power when you have the means to.
Where my things go?
That's what I was looking for.
Yeah, hold on. Let me refresh a bit. See if they're there, because I know I put them in. Office. This is like Google Slides being terrible sometimes. You know? So.
Oh, you know what? I think I passed it because it was after the low key.
Gotcha. I'll go back
because I didn't remember seeing it, so it might have. You just might have to go back.
Yep, I got it. Come on, load the things. Beep beep bop beep boop. It's on. Ooh, 55. Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So here you go. So I brought this. Okay. This is from Middle East Eye. Ward al-Sheikh Kahil, a Palestinian child who survived the bombing, recounts the night her mother and 6 siblings were burned to death.
I got out of the fire, and the fire burned my hands. The ceiling had collapsed on me. I was at my aunt's. Then I couldn't walk on the fire. And the paramedics told me not to move because my hand hurts. Because my hands are injured. When the fire broke out, I couldn't walk inside the school. Then I was in the school. And I was filmed. Then my mom and dad went to Al-Shifa Hospital, and my mom was killed. And my little sister, may God have mercy on her, was killed. Abed, Muhammad, Amal, my sister Miriam, Dewan, that's all. All of them were killed except me. I wish for my siblings. I arrived at the Baptist hospital and found the bodies charred. Completely charred, sons and daughters all burned. If it weren't for the fact that those killed, my brother's children were in their usual place in the classroom in the same spot, no one could tell who was who because of how badly they were burned. They were just skeletons. Within minutes, they were reduced to skeletons. They melted, truly melted, literally. And Ward, I saw her on the news like you all did, walking through the middle of the flame. That is a miracle from God. Praise be to God. God let her survive to witness to the injustice we're suffering. The injustice we're enduring from the whole world. The world is watching our son die and our women burning before everyone's eyes. No one condemns it. What crime did they commit? What did they do? A child sleeping. What did they do? The mother, 2 boys and 3 girls. The mother was somewhat recognizable, but the children, not at all. They're all gone. They're all gone. All 6 gone. It's a very, very difficult situation. I saw it myself. I'm telling you, if those hadn't evacuated from them, we took them from that place, we wouldn't have known who they were. Just skeletons. Muhammad's head was severed. He was 9 or 10 years old. His body melted. The little girl, the one who came out from the flame. We saw her on the news. You all talked about her. She will complain to God. She'll complain about the entire nation. She'll complain to God all about them. What was her sin? To see her family burning in front of her. To see the place where she was sleeping, which was a shelter, a school, the place she considered safe, the school. The shelter center, her family dying before her eyes.
Yep. But anyway, that's what I brought. So,
I mean, if Ramaphosa really didn't want to say anything, all he had to do was show that.
Right. Yeah. So
just show Trump that and be like, so what's up?
Ugh. So, I mean, the amount of death of children is fucking ridiculous. So, but yeah. Awful stuff. Talk about it, though.
You're right. I mean, again, it says something, and I'm sorry, I have to call out even our colleagues when a slap by a grown woman, is deserving of more attention than that.
Yeah.
This should be played, and I'm going to say it now, because it was the 5th year anniversary of George Floyd being murdered over the weekend. This should have gone viral in a lot bigger way. I think, honestly, if Ward had died, honestly, that probably would have made it even more viral, to be honest. But because she was fine, relatively speaking, you know, it probably didn't get as much attention, or the powers that be tried to bury this because obviously this involves a child, so they don't want to pull at anyone's heartstrings. But again, more of a reason why this should have been the thing that people should be talking about versus I don't give a fuck about Macron getting slapped. For all I know, he probably deserved the slap. And that was between two consenting adults. Who gives a fuck? But this, you know, this guy is saying that this child is going to wonder, why did God take my family away from me?
A 7-year-old.
Right.
Has to
in
now,
a school.
Has zero family
in a
left.
school, in a place that is considered a war crime to bomb.
Yeah. As well as hospitals, but they bomb those too. Just fucking awful. And we continue to have to cover news stories like this. So, you know, fucking shit. You know? Which, you know, talking about these things is why we're demonetized, which of course we are. You know, so scan that QR code, go to ko-fi.com/indienewsnetwork if you would like to support us anyway. But if you can't do that, like and subscribe, share this video, send this to people who should watch it, and leave a comment. Let us know what you think. Otherwise, thanks for watching.